Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing an exciting video that nobody asked for, but I really want to do, so I'm bringing it to you today, and that is how I annotate my books. Now, I personally love annotating my books. It just makes me so happy to flip through and see my initial thoughts when I was reading that book for the first time, and I don't know, it's just so fun. Now, I don't do it to every book I read because that would literally be awful, but for the ones that I know that I'm gonna really like, or the ones that I know I'm gonna wanna look back on later, I do love to write down my initial thoughts. Pretty out of breath. But my annotating process is definitely different for each book I read. It really depends on the genre, why I'm reading it, what am I trying to get out of it. Usually I'm just trying to get entertainment out of books, but I do have a couple of books that I've read for like class and stuff that I want to show you that I think could be interesting. We're gonna get into it. The one thing I do with every single book that I annotate is I will write down definitions in them no matter what the book is. I don't know. I think it's fun and definitely helps better story retention if you know what is being said most of the time. So I guess the first thing I should probably start out with is my annotating supplies. So for the most part, I keep all my annotating things in my pencil pouch. This I think I got from YesStyle maybe, and then I put a bunch of pins on it. So I have like a Studio Ghibli one, some Disney ones, some Harry Potter ones, a little BT21 badge that I got off of Etsy, and then this really cute little cat who's reading, and I was like, that's perfect. I have to put that on there. So I did. So I love this. It's really spacious. I like the fact that I can see through it. It's a pencil case. Before I really knew that I wanted to continue to annotate my books, I just wasn't sure, and I didn't want to go out and buy like specific flags that I'd use for annotating, because if I didn't like annotating my books, then they would just sit somewhere. So I would literally just take full-size sticky notes and cut them up. I still have a couple stuck to the back of this book that I annotated. It's just really cheap because post-it notes are literally 99 cents for so many of them, and if you cut them up, it's so many tabs. And then also when I first started, I was only using a single color, so it made it really easy to just cut up like an entire post-it cube and call it good. That is what I started with. Now I like to use actual post-it tabs. These come in like a pack of 8. I do like the color palette for my annotations to look nice, and I don't really like the bold like red and blue and like yellow. So here we have like this nice light purple, this cute little neon green, this like light pink color, which I think is cute. So it just has a bunch of more pastel-ish colors. So I use just the pack from Post-it that has a bunch of them. And I like these better because they're translucent, so I can like actually write things on these. It does make it a little bit harder because if I'm rereading a book, I do have to physically unstick it from the page, read what's under it, and then stick it back. But it's really not that big of a deal because I don't spend too much of my time rereading books. But I will sometimes use full-size post-it notes to write things down in my book. I also stole these red ones from my desk job that I used to have because I've never seen red post-it notes before. I don't know if this is like a common thing or not, but I had to steal them because it was cool. So I will mainly use bigger post-it notes if I have things that I want to write in the front, like just general character information that I don't want to forget, or I'll also stick them throughout if I just have longer thoughts on a paragraph than space available on the page, or like a recap throughout if I'm reading like a more complex book that I would like to remember better, you know. I don't use these super often because sometimes I really just cannot be bothered to write a plot summary down throughout a book, but when I do, these are nice to have. And then for some other post-its I have, these got really messed up in one of my bags. I don't know which one. It's kind of sad. But specifically for these post-it notes, I got them off of Etsy or something, but they're little cats and they're so cute. I don't really use these for annotating too much. I will sometimes use these as like bookmarks, or if I have like a reading assignment, I'll use these to mark that because they don't really stick that well. But for something temporary, they're really good and they're really cute. A ruler, I do like to have a ruler because I have started underlining things in different colors. This was a full-sized ruler and then I sat on it and it broke in half, but honestly I'm not too mad about it because now it fits in my pencil pouch, so that's very convenient. And I think I stole this from one of my engineering teachers in high school, so free ruler. So I have recently started underlining things in my book to color code with the tab that I have on that page, which seems like a lot, but it's so satisfying to see. So I use these pens. There's more that come in the pack. I think it's like a pack of 10, but these are just the ones that best match up with colors of my tabs. So these are the Staedtler Triple Plus Fine Liner. I really do like these a lot. I think they're very thin, perfect for underlining text. They just work perfectly for my purposes, and I really like these, and I like the colors that come with them. And then lastly in here, I think I only have one highlighter, but I use the mild liners from Zebra. There's a bunch more in my pencil cup over there, but I don't want to go get them. But I do use these for any highlighting I do. I don't typically like to highlight in my books, but for this I'll use for like more classics and whatnot. If there's just like lines that I like or think are pretty, I'll just highlight them, but I won't really like write anything about them, but it does draw my eye to them when I'm flipping through the book. God, sitting on the floor is not good for my back. That's not the point though, because those are all of the annotating supplies that I have, and now I'm going to get more into specifics on the things that I do for certain books. So first up, I'm going to start with the first book that I ever annotated, which was Vicious by V. Schwab. This one is very simple because I literally just used one tab color throughout the entire book. So this, I literally just used blue for the whole thing. I don't even know why, because I feel like another color would have better suited this cover, but that's what we're going with. And I didn't tab every single thing that I wrote down. There's just a lot of random writing and underlining in here that I'm like, I don't need to draw too much attention to this, but like the more interesting and complex thoughts I deemed worthy enough of having a tab on that page. I didn't do this too often, but every now and then I would write like a chapter summary, like at the bottom of the chapter. Like this one's kind of just talking about the relationship between a couple of, oh, that's funny. This one is talking about just the dynamic between Victor and Mitch, and how it's like the trope of like he's large but I'm in charge, when like the shorter person is the one that's like calling the shots, which I just thought was funny, and I deemed it, I didn't even tab this, I don't know. I apparently didn't deem this interesting enough to put a tab on, but I think it's kind of funny now. Honestly, some of my annotations are more intelligent than others. Typically, I'm the only person that's going to be reading them, so I'll really just write anything. Overall, I just think tabbing books that you're reading for fun is just really useful if you want to take a look back at it at some point, but you don't necessarily want to reread it. Like, I feel like after flipping through all of these while I was planning for this video, I have such a better grasp on the plot of this book than I did, like, before I started flipping through it planning for this video, you know? There's kind of like a simple way to do it because you're literally using only one color for the entire thing, so there's not too much thought put into it. You write something down, you stick a sticky note on it, you're good to go. For something a little more complex, I do have a couple of books that are color-coded. This one is It by Stephen King, and I think it's the first book that I annotated based on like a key. So I just had a really basic key for this one. I only really used 4 colors. I wanted to keep it simple because it was the first time I was trying something like this, and this book is huge. I didn't want to like give up on it halfway through, but it's very satisfying to look at now that it's completely finished. The key really depends on the book that you're reading. Like specifically for Stephen King books that I've annotated, I have this green tab, which is writing in words, which is basically where, well, first of all, it's like for definitions of words that I don't know, but mainly it's for like connections to his other books. A couple characters from his other series show up in this book, and I just think it's nice to have those marked so I can go back and look at it if I happen to be reading that other book that the character is in. I just think that's really interesting, and I like to be able to find it quickly. It's just really interesting to see those kind of connections. Also in here, I just have like general funny things I liked. I also typically have a general tab in every single book that I have, and that's kind of just where everything that doesn't really have a place goes under, you know? But my, I don't know, my magnum opus of annotating has to be my copies of Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron. These are just exquisite to look through, honestly. Like, I'm so happy that I annotated these the way that I did. The key is the same for both of them throughout the series, but it's like an in-depth key, so there's a lot of different emotions being represented throughout here. I also underlined things in specific colors, if I can find a good one here. See, like there's some nice pink underlining on the page, and it's just really nice to flip through because I feel like I can always see specifically things that I liked, things that I didn't like, things that made me sad, and it's just really easy to figure all that out without even needing to open the book really. I wouldn't necessarily recommend going all out for every book that you annotate, but I knew that I was absolutely going to adore these two books, and I did, so I kind of went a little overboard when annotating these. Like, I don't do this to every book that I read, but I just really wanted to do something fun for this read, so I'm very glad that I did it. I think I have, yes, I have 6 categories throughout this one, and they're pretty basic. It's like funny, general, sad, hate this. The one that I have for this that is book specific is like, for these 2 books and the entirety of the Infernal Devices, literature is like gets referenced a lot. Like, a lot of different books are mentioned, people talking about how they love to read. So I added a green tab that is specifically for literature references. It's just kind of interesting to see how often it is brought up. It's a lot. And then I can also look at those through these books that I have up here, which is, I think it's an even bigger part of the Infernal Devices, so it's just really fun to see that. Here's another example of like using some big post-it notes in the beginning. Like, the characters in this they were really hard to keep apart in the beginning, so I wrote like who their parents were, because I feel like that's a big thing, so I could figure out who is related to who and who was the cousin of who, and it's a whole thing. And then also throughout Chain of Iron, I just had so many thoughts. I started writing things down on post-it notes throughout. Like, there are a couple of these, mainly just me being mad at where the plot's going, so yeah, there's just a few of those throughout there. So it's just a really fun thing to look back on, and when I do read these again, it's gonna be really, really cool to see my original thoughts on it. The last like category that I want to talk about is how I annotate classics. I like to keep it very, very casual and simple because these books are already hard to get through, so I don't really want to add another level of difficulty by trying to figure out complex connections and interesting motifs. Like, no, that is too much work. Sometimes I will Google the classic to try to figure out like general themes. I'll write those down sometimes, but like, not usually. It's just if I really feel like I'm not understanding it, I'll do that. I'll just write general thoughts about it because I find those to be more interesting anyway. So for example, the picture of Dorian Gray literally only has 2 color tabs in it. The blue ones are for general thoughts and the orange ones are for the amount of times that a certain character has pissed me off. We can see by where the orange tabs stop that he was not in the latter half of the book. And then I also have Great Expectations. I'm doing this one a little bit differently because I'm not really writing my general thoughts about anything in this because I really don't want to write in this book. Basically, all of these are for like words that I don't know or slang from the 1860s that I don't know, and there's a lot of it. I'm also writing chapter summaries, just like something quick for a refresher, because I find that sometimes when I set a classic down for a little bit and I pick it back up, I will not be able to tell you a damn thing that happened in the last chapter that I read, which is not good. So it's nice to have that little refresher. And then the main reason that I'm reading Great Expectations is because it's kind of what The Last Hours is loosely based on, so I wanted to see the parallels. So I do have a couple of tabs in here that are my connections between the book and the series. Super simple. Wanted to keep it really simple when reading Dickens because I was very intimidated when I first started this book. Like, I had no hopes that I would get through it, and I guess I still haven't gotten through it, but I'm enjoying it so far actually, so that's good. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is academic annotations, which I don't have a lot. I'm not like a lit major. I'm just a sad engineering major who's a wannabe lit major, basically. Not actually, I could not be a lit major, but I have taken a few English courses, so mainly we're going to be talking about my copy of Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey. I have a bunch of post-it notes in here, and then I have some tabs which I'll go into. But I also wrote chapter summaries in here. Most of them are not this long, but I did write those throughout here just for like a better understanding of it because we were talking about it in class and I didn't want to look like a dumb bitch. Also, I have a post-it note for every single reading that we were assigned, and on here I would write down key discussion points that we were going over in class, just so I could reference them later when we were writing our essay on this piece. And then as for the purple parts, I mean, it's really not that interesting. I would just highlight and tab in purple the like major things that I was planning to use in my essay that we wrote about this paper as well. Even though I was reading this book for an academic purpose, not all of the thoughts in here are completely scholarly for my own sanity. Just some things in this book are stupid slash funny slash annoying, and I wanted to write like normal thoughts on it because honestly I would consider reading this again, and I don't want this to be completely chock full with, oh, we can see that the Greek gods here were I don't even know where I'm going with this, but that is, oh god, this video is probably so disjointed, and if it was, I'm really sorry, but I'm not used to like pulling together like well thought out videos, so this is a new one. I do really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can maybe take away something from this and use it for yourself. Maybe you don't annotate books and you're gonna start. I hope you do. I would seriously recommend it. It's such a good time. So yes, if you like this video, let me know down below. Do you annotate your books? Have you ever annotated your books? Do you want to annotate your books? Just literally anything. So yes, like, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.